All right. So, welcome, friends. Looks like we've got quite a large crowd here, about 18 people. Today is Sunday. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Thailand and mid morning in Europe. And today I would like to talk about something that's, let us say, fits in with and is a both an introductory and a follow-on to what Daniel was talking about yesterday. And we can also say it like this, that almost always I pay close attention to make sure that the new people on the calls got some Dhamma that was valuable, useful, and wholesome to the new person. But today, I'm going to take a different approach and talk about it from the perspective of those who have already gotten the Dhamma and where do we go with it after that in regard to practice. Now, one thing that I'd like to mention that Jose had talked about, he asked about the word caring. And today's talk is going to be about not caring. And he asked about, well, where are the times and places that we can care? And that's the way that he's asking of how do we practice dukkha? How do we practice being dissatisfied and unwholesome in the right way? And my answer to that is talking about imagine that a dog owner took their animal to the vet. And while the vet is working on the dog, the veterinarian is caring for the animal in this present moment, doing what the dog needs, flushing his stomach if it was poisoned, bandaging wounds, uh, doing the care that the dog needs right here, right now. But the owner brought the dog in because of their worry about what will happen to the dog. They're future oriented and they care about the dog. And this is a way that we can look at it is that we need to stop caring about stuff and start caring for stuff in the present moment. And when we're doing that correctly, when we're caring for this moment and only this moment, that means then that we're free from the past, we're free from the future, and we're right here in the present moment. And when we do this correctly, it brings on joy, it brings on a winner's attitude. Then, in fact, it brings on the real topic of today is going to be jhana. And we can say this about jhana, and that is that anyone who practices correctly on a regular basis, over and over and over again, will in fact, it will turn his practice will turn into his mind into that first jhana state, which is the state of not being a victim mentally, but being a champion, being a winner. But mostly it's being in the here now, experiencing this moment with all of its glory, including really good feelings, without any of the unwholesome feelings, like there's no fear. We can call it feeling safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. This safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied then is referred to as sukha, which is one of the factors of jhana, and that then leads into that feeling of satisfaction over and over, leads into the feeling of success. And that feeling of success is kind of a wow, I can do this. It's almost like a surprise, but it also is of enormously pleasure. Now, the factors then of the first jhana is to be free from all hindrances, including the hindrance of wanting to take care of something, wanting things that we don't have, being in a state of dukkha or putting up with something that we don't want to put up with, and we stop don't wanting to put up with it, and in fact just let it go, forget about it, even drop it, so that now the state of first jhana has the following qualities. Number one, it is free from hindrances. Number two, it is satisfying on its own. Now, the important point here is that the Buddha says he only teaches one thing, and that is dukkha or dissatisfaction, and then the end of dissatisfaction. And so, if sukha or satisfaction is part of the first jhana, wouldn't you think then that first jhana is enough? The Buddha says it certainly is. In Sutta number 36, he talks about it in the sense of the story of the rose apple tree, where he talks about it that he had been going through all of the mental contortions and all the high jhanas, but every time that he would come out of the jhanas, he'd be back into dukkha. He then tried the self flagellation of the Jains, and he found, even though he was better at self torture, self flagellation, the austerities, he was better than anybody. That didn't solve the issue that he was looking for the answer to. But he did remember that when he was a young man, a child, probably about the age of 14, he did experience that state of the first jhana that was easy enough to get into with correct practice. And so, if we practice correctly of removing unwholesome thoughts and replacing it with wholesome thoughts over and over and over again, that will give rise to the feeling of safety and security, because we're not having any thoughts about things that are dangerous or possibilities or could be's or dangers, anything like that. We're actually talking about what's happening right here, right now. And so that leads then, and everyone who practices it enough, I won't use the word diligence, because if you're diligent, that means that you kind of want something and you're striving for an outcome, as opposed to relaxing into the present moment. And if we can relax into the present moment, that will give rise then to this thing called the first jhana. Anyone who practices correctly can reach the first jhana by practicing the Eightfold Noble Path and by practicing Anapanasati along with it. Now, Anapanasati points out that there are four items, there are four foundations, and that is the body, the feelings, the attitude, and the thoughts. Now, in the beginner's practice, pre first jhana, we deal with our thoughts and our attitudes. And after we reach the first jhana, what that means is that we've been able to learn to work with and control feelings so that we begin to feel really good. So that would be then the fruit of the first jhana. The path of the first jhana is also valuable in the sense that when you don't have any unwholesome thoughts, then you feel good. But as you practice the first jhana, the feelings get really, really big, and you start to have what is referred to in Hinduism as kriyas, or bodily motions. One would be the standing up of hairs, or what we call goosebumps, or shimmerings or shiverings coming up the back of the body. And that when we begin to pay attention to how we feel more and more, this is how the thoughts, the ordinary thinking process, is now being focused on how we feel instead of thinking about the past and the present or thinking about how to practice and all of that. We're already at the state to where now we can really focus on the feelings. When we start focusing on the feelings and start focusing on how good we feel, that then is the smooth transition from the first jhana into the second jhana, this very feeling oriented. Now, I'd like to introduce a little um, rhyme or couplet uh, that is used in Burma, but is very valuable to understand it. And that is rising, falling, touching, sitting. So, rising, falling is getting into and experiencing first jhana because it's very much breath oriented. That we take good deep breaths and get very relaxed and feeling good, but the touching begins to work with the second and the third jhana, and then the sitting is actually what we refer to as a proprioceptic system, which is actually inside or internal to the body, and that we're going to now discuss that. Now, the next topic to talk about in this regard is that the first three jhanas have in Sutta number 119 and also in Sutta number 10 and in other places in reference to the jhanas, it talks about that the first, second, and third jhana use water as their base for the analogy. But in the fourth jhana, it's not water is no longer used, it's rather the body itself that's used as the analogy in the fourth jhana. So in the first jhana, the analogy with water is that in the time of the Buddha, the bathman, the man who was attending the bathrooms, would take bath powder and sprinkle water on it. And we can think of the sprinkling of the water on the dry bath powder as you sprinkling wholesome thoughts on the dry body, sprinkling wholesome, happy thoughts one after another on the body, so that the body becomes suffused with it. Now, the analogy that I'd like to give with that is that my grandmother made biscuits. She made biscuits every time I was there, and I think every day. And how she made biscuits was that she would take flour and put it out on her table there, and then take a bowl of water, dip her fingers in the water, and then sprinkle water on the flour in the process of turning it into dough, so that as she sprinkled the water, the flour would absorb the dough, but it wouldn't become wet. It's not like putting the flour into water, it's much more like adding the water to the flour so that it winds up having complete mixture into a dough-like object that's malleable. So you can think of the dry, windy thoughts that we have, that when the wind blows, our thoughts are scattered everywhere. But once we start adding joy, adding that wholesome quality of thoughts to it, then the mind will settle down into a dough-like malleable object. And so uh, we feel kind of gushy, but not wet, sort of like Play Doh. So, in the second jhana, though, when we begin to get deeply into the feelings, the analogy changes to a spring or an artesian well. Now, what we mean by an artesian well is that the water that's stored in the mountain will actually spring up out of the ground. And at many places, in fact, in where I lived for a year in Sherrill, South Carolina, the farmer had, in fact, used his plow to bank up this artesian well and formed a pond. And one of the things that the kids would do, they would love to go swimming in that pond where they get over the actual artesian well because it's bubbling not with a water and air mix, but it was kind of bubbling because of the difference in the temperature of the waters, where the cold water would come out of the ground and mix and swirl with the with the water that was in the pond. And this is how we feel when we're in the second jhana, is that the good feelings are so profound that they kind of wash all over you and get you feeling really, really good. Now, the third jhana then is a natural uh, uh, progression to that, so that we can see that, in fact, even Bhikkhu Buddhadasa talks about it, is that those really uh, gushy, cold, tingling kind of feelings are temporary. They don't last for very long, that we begin to settle down. And so in the third jhana, it's referred to then as, with water, as is that a lotus will stand up out of the flow of the creek. You can have rushing water come, and or even in a pond. And when the lotus flower raises its head above the water and opens into a flower, guess what? The flower is not drenched in that water. So too, we can become equanimous with those good feelings, that we're no longer associated with the feelings themselves, but rather that we begin to rise above them. And so we become stable, grounded, equanimous. This is the way that we would think of the third jhana. But it also doesn't last very long, that we go kind of into the fourth jhana. So we leave all of these water analogies, and then the fourth jhana has the analogy of a shimmering sheet that goes over the top of the body. And that as it's, while we're thinking about it, um, being in and under this sheet, what we're actually looking at is that the body is losing its boundaries. It's losing its boundaries in the sense of the ordinary mind is that where the skin stops, the air begins, and there's a boundary there. We also think of it as inside the body has the proprioceptive system, but that the skin is on the outside of the body, and we bring boundaries there. But in the fourth jhana, we're going to kind of begin to see that the body itself doesn't have those boundaries, that those are only intellectual boundaries between the surface and the deep part of the body. And that when we see the body under this sheet, in fact, the word that's used is shimmering. And so it's not the sheet itself, it's that the body begins to feel like it's shimmering, or that it is radiant, or that it is, let us say, bigger than the boundary that we think of, that bounds us at skin. We also, in the fourth jhana, begin to see that the thoughts that we used to have, that we were leaving back in the second jhana, that now the thought that we do have, when we do have thoughts, they're undistinct. They break up very easily, because we're much more interested in the experience of being in the body, being in this marvelous thing that has this texture of feeling everywhere. Now, one of the things that we can talk about is that the body breathes. We think that we get all of our oxygen from the breath itself, but in fact, the breathing body does take in some oxygen, but mostly it's removing stuff. It's removing carbon dioxide. It removes pus in the hair follicles. You know what a pimple is. A pimple is actually the result of the stuff that doesn't get out of the body when it was on its way out. And so the body actually expunges many things, throwing this stuff out. And in the process of doing so, the boundaries of the body change. Odors. and the air changes around us. We begin to have a thing that is referred to as an aura, but when we use the word aura, is almost always magical. And we're not using a magical aura here. We're using the real expansion of the body, that outside of the body, the air that surrounds the body is affected by the body. There is a warmth to it that you're radiating heat. There's a moisture to it because you're radiating moisture. There's aromas that come out of the body. And so the body actually now, this thing that we're calling this boundarylessness means that the body is expanding. Now, there have been a lot of old artwork, and there's a lot of new agey kind of people who talk about an aura and that they think that it can be visualized, but it's not something that can be seen, but it's something that can be touched and felt. You know this. An example is that in the West, people don't like to be in very close contact with other people, especially if they don't know them. So being on a crowded bus is bad enough, but being on a crowded tram, or worse, on a close-quartered train, and that I began to see that very clearly when I was in India, because the Indians don't have the same boundaries that Westerners have. And so I would feel kind of, you know, infringed upon by the Indians who do not have that sort of feeling of having my space. Josie, do you understand what I mean about having your space around the body?
Yeah.
That you don't want people to crowd in on you and take up your
I
space, and you don't
I
want
would
their
prefer
space
not.
in your space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, well, in Southern Europe, it's a little bit different. But yes, we do have that feeling and concept of personal space, not being
Mm-hmm.
stepped on, not. Um, it's a little bit different from Anglo-Saxonic countries, but we still do have it.
Yes.
Um,
Okay. So what we're getting at here is when we're practicing, we want to start paying attention to where the body ends and where our space is, and how that space then gets diffused into that part of the atmosphere that's like a meter away or so, that's not part of our space. And so there's no real boundary there. There's no black or white. It's just air that gets diffused. Now, another way of thinking about this is that the body actually, because of this spaciousness that we experience, we can also think of the body as an antenna. Now, if you've been around old electronics, like in the days of CB radio, when you see the truckers with their microphone and they push the button, say breaker, breaker, 19, breaker, breaker, okay? Now, ham radio operators do the same thing. We don't do it on cell phones, and the reason for it is because they transmit on one frequency and receive on another frequency. And so the cell phone can transmit on one frequency and receive on another frequency simultaneously. This is much more advanced. But the human mind and the old radios were that you could either transmit or you can receive, and when on the same frequency. Now, in that regard, if you are transmitting, you can't receive. But when the mind gets quiet, we can begin to receive this information from our body of the aura. We can begin to pay attention to and expand that aura so that we can gather information. Achan Po actually had techniques to train monks with this. And how he would do it is that he would see the monk, like myself, standing someplace, and he would walk up close behind. And as he departed, he would mention something like sunyata or tatata. Tatata was his favorite, which means be here now. And he was making that statement in the sense that I missed the fact that he had gotten close to me, that I wasn't paying attention to the body. I was paying attention, I was transmitting, not receiving. And so I began to become much more open to what was happening around. That this is, in fact, one of the reasons why I um, try to give good definitions of concentration. Concentration actually has the quality that we're talking about as repetitive over and over and over and over again. This is what we would mean by focus rather than focusing down and looking at something static. And that we normally see that as concentration as focusing down upon an object rather than expanding our awareness so that we can expand it so that we can expand it into the body. And this is what we mean by rising, falling, touching, sitting, is that as we get into the sitting or the just being in the body, we begin to expand. This is why the translators would talk about it as infinite space, but that's a really bad translation. That in fact, the Buddha had no concept of the word infinite at all, and it's not infinite. But what it was, the Pali word that they were translating meant the boundaries get loose. There is no boundary between my body and the atmosphere, that I'm part of the atmosphere, that I give off and leak off all kinds of stuff that's close to the body. And when two bodies come together, that boundary is touched, that it's merged. And if that happens, you should know about it. You should know when you're in contact with other people like that. That in fact, combining this practice with walking meditation, and part of the practice of walking meditation is by watching your feet and watching the path that you're on, making sure that where you step is a good, wholesome place. You're not going to step on bees or snakes or frogs and things like that, but you begin to get very sensitive to your walking. And the outcome of that, or part of the side benefit, is that you begin to tread very lightly. You begin to tread not only very lightly but very quietly, so that a good meditator will be able to walk into a room and half the people won't know he's there. Now, in the West, they talk about that when I make my grand entrance, when I go into a room, I take over the room. Well, we're doing just the opposite of that, that you go into the room without messing it up or taking over it, and all you've got is just your aura. And several times I've seen it. It was actually one time it happened at Wat Soan Milk, where I was in the kitchen, and I walked past the lady who was doing the dishes, and when she saw me passing by, she freaked out just like I would have, but I didn't. I didn't freak out when Achan Po walked past because I began to pick up on him being there. But this lady got quite frightened. This is the idea then that when ordinary people come in contact with someone who is quiet and exuding aura, they think that in fact the person got in there by flying in there. How did you get in here so quietly? The answer is that I'm just walking the way that I have trained in walking and paying attention to the body in the way that I've trained to pay attention to the body. And so it's, to be honest with you, it's happened right here in the house. I have walked into the kitchen and Tam turns around with great startle. How did you get in here? I didn't hear you come in. And the answer is that I was just walking normally. I wasn't trying to sneak up on her or anything. And so this is what we mean then by paying attention to what the body is doing, but we're not thinking about the body. We're paying attention to it, especially the subtle vibrations, the radiance that the body is. It's the word in the that's used in the translation is the word shimmering. Um, Yesterday, um, I think Daniel was talking about it, as mentioned in another sutta, that used the word that was translated into radiance. So this is where we can take this is that as you practice over and over and over again to practice being safe, secure, and comfortable, as you gain control and power over that, that feeling of safe and secure begins to radiate, as opposed to fear is a closing down. And most people want to close down. They don't want to have their space invaded. And so they will contract their space. This is an ordinary thing. And they don't even know that they're doing this mindfully. They're not mindful of this at all. It's kind of a subconscious reaction to where when you're practicing Anapanasati at this heavy body level, we're actually growing and expanding our radiance, our aura, the shimmering, so that the body actually grows into the space around the body. So this is the way that we want to start practicing is that we actually in the first jhana can begin to pay attention to the body. That it right there in the Anapanasati Sutta, it talks about experiencing the body, the knowledge of the body. And by paying more and more attention to the body, this body will grow in knowledge. And as the knowledge grows, so will your understanding of the body, that the boundaries that you have naturally created through ignorance begin to melt away. Also in the Anapanasati Sutta, the fourth item on the Kaya Nupassana on the body is to relax. And so we're talking about a relaxed state when the body is really relaxed because there is no fear there. It's like everything that relaxes. What does it do? It expands. Think about it that part of the tightness is contracting. Fear is contracting. When we're relaxed and paying attention to it,
Sorry, mate. I want to go
our
to
whole
bed.
existence
Thank
expands.
you.
Who's talking? Go ahead. Somebody said something? So
I think
now that
someone
we've
said
been,
they had to go. Someone said they had to go to bed, I do believe.
oh, okay.
I'm not sure who it was.
It's all right with me. When you go to bed, go practice this. Go practice being in bed. Go practice becoming very relaxed and very confident that you can experience the body, the whole body, as it relaxes. This is the way that we think of it. Now, a lot of people, when they read the sutras or they hear somebody who talks about the jhanas who doesn't know, they think of these jhanas as magical, great big things. And in fact, it's not. It's ordinary. It's in fact the natural outcome. It's the natural outcome of practicing the first jhana. That's why the Buddha does say that the first jhana is the path to enlightenment. He doesn't say all four jhanas are the path. then in fact what you can say then is that the practice of the first jhana brings about this natural progression that has these features to it, that we begin to organize our thoughts in the first jhana so that we have one wholesome thought after another, and then we begin to put some gaps into these thoughts. So we'll have a wholesome thought and a wholesome thought, and then, wow, and then another wholesome thought. Now, the ordinary mind is wholesome thought is immediately followed by an unwholesome thought. So they begin to practice and they say, oh, I can feel good. And then the unwholesome thought, yeah, but it's not good enough yet. I want more. Then we'll have the thought, oh, I can feel satisfied. And then the unwholesome thought, oh, but I'm not satisfied enough. But if you practice, oh, I can become satisfied, and then satisfied again, and then satisfied again, then the knowledge of satisfaction begins to grow. And when we have one wholesome thought after another, those feelings begin to arise, that we begin to trust what we're doing. And in that practice, we begin to experience the feelings, and the feelings get really, really good, so that we begin to look at the feelings. We're no longer talking about feelings. We're no longer thinking about feeling good. We're too busy feeling good. And that really busy at feeling good would be the second jhana. But it doesn't last long. It goes into a more peaceful, more quiet state. And so as we progress in practice, we just start to focus more and more on the reality of being in the body, and the body is just here with all of its ramifications, all of its tingling, all of its shimmering, all of its radiance. And there's nothing else to do except to just lay there or sit there and enjoy. This is why the Buddha talks about the jhanas as those who are in the jhanas. When they are in the jhana, they experience a pleasant abiding. And the Buddha talks about it in the sense that he will find pleasure wherever it may be found, because Ananda wasn't sure about this fourth jhana. If you're not feeling anything, then where's the pleasure? The answer is that the pleasure comes from not having to feel things with emotions, that now we're in full, deep, abiding sensual awareness, sensual in the sense of the senses, that you can feel the body, you can feel the toes, you can feel all of it, but as a unit, as a whole body. Now, Goenka tries to teach that, and is a royal failure as far as I'm concerned. You've heard possibly of the body scanning, where you start at the top of the head and then you move around the face, and then you move to the shoulders and the hand and another shoulder, and you down the torso, down to one leg to a foot, and down the other leg to a foot. People wind up, when they're doing this, as they're working very, very hard, and they're doing it piece by piece by piece. What we're talking about here is not trying to do it piece by piece by piece, nor are we trying to gain anything from it, but rather we're just merely enjoying the body, because there's not much else to experience in the fourth jhana, because we're not perceiving much of anything. We're not telling ourselves any stories about it. We're just experiencing how nice it is not to think, not to feel, just to lay here and experience this deep sense of satisfaction. So, what do you think, Catherine? Is this too advanced a practice for you, or can you start to blend this in with what you're doing?
I think some of what you've talked about have been experiences or realizations that I've had, such as that expansion of the body sideways, forwards, up, behind, the dissolving of boundaries, the openness, and the way that that's so relaxing. A lot of that are things that I've never really had this sort of idea of structured jhanas where you move from one state to another, but a lot of what you're speaking of makes a lot of sense to me.
Very good. How about you, Agnes? You're probably just having too much fun.
Yeah, actually, I really, really enjoyed hearing about this. It's, yeah, I don't have much to say. It's just great.
Okay. How about you, Ivan? What do you have to say?
Nothing to say. Everything, yeah, Jana, everything. I understand that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Don't think I can't do it, because I can't do it is just an unwholesome thought that'll keep you out of the first jhana. But rather think about it in the sense of, wow, I'm having too much fun to worry about whether I can do it or not. This is not a high jump. This is not a goal to reach. This is a relaxation that you can do. So, Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, I think upon making our way to the first jhana very well after many contiguous wholesome thoughts, then we, by letting go of coarser factors, we make it to that second jhana where effort falls away.
Right. Letting go of the thoughts that pushed us into the first jhana is like, now we're on a roll. We can stop thinking about it and just enjoy the road, just enjoy the show. And that's what the second, the third, and the fourth jhanas are all about, is just enjoying the show on a more subtle level. The second jhana is enjoying the show of how good I can feel. The third jhana is enjoying the show is that I feel really good, but I'm above those feelings now. And now I can begin to see deeper into the body. So, Kawan, what do you have to say?
Just 1 second. Dhammarato, it was a great talk like every week. And I enjoy it and I'm enjoying it and just laying down in bed and having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, lay down and just enjoy the hell out of it,
Yeah.
because there's no hell there.
Not much else to do.
Nothing else to do and no other place to go. We can just lay here and relax. Oh, wow, how good this feels. Except that how good this feels is a word, a thought that we don't even have that much. So, Mr. Ben, what do you think?
Very enjoyable call. Thank you, Dhammarato.
Matt, what do you think? How about you, Paul?
I've been trying out relaxing the body when going to sleep, and it's been quite nice. It almost feels like it's just the sensations of the body touching the bed, sort of in space. And yeah, it's quite nice. Thank you for the talk.
How about you, Red?
Yeah, I do have a question on this that you presented here today. What is the difference between you seeing that as a concept, you can visualize that, but it is just your mind just doing tricks, versus when it becomes like when you can just feel it and you know it, that's true. What signals the body gives to it?
We're talking about an actual experience that the body is actually there to be felt not in an emotional sense, but in a proprioceptic and in a touch sense, to where visualization is something that the mind is doing. And that basically
Mhm.
what we're here doing is systematically training the mind to shut down. So we don't do much visualization. That in fact, if there's any visualizations at all, it would be when you close your eyes, whether it's daylight or dark, when you close your eyes, what do you see? Ben, what is it you see? Oh, he's leaving.
Yeah.
So,
Dark.
what do you see?
Dark. Yeah. Okay. Like pitch
Actually,
black.
if you look a bit better, you will see that it's not a full sheet of black. That in fact, there's a lot of white clouds, streaks. That in fact, when the rods in the cones fire, there will be really, really tiny little pricks of white. So I would invite while you're practicing is to begin to look while you're in the dark with your eyes closed to see what the eyes themselves actually see, because you can begin to see whiteness, light, because that's real. It's not imagining. And in fact, we're leaving our imaginations behind and getting more and more real as to what's happening right here, right now. So does that make sense for you, Red?
It may I may be able to try. It's just that I'm having like 5,000 ping and I was actually using my phone to try and use the mic. It's like that. It's all over the place.
Okay, technical difficulties. Gotcha.
Tactical difficulties.
So, Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, it was a really nice talk. Thank you, Dhammarato. I will make sure to watch the talk with Pradanya on YouTube today.
Good, good. So, Giannis, what do you think?
Hey, I'm a bit confused with the difference you said about transmitting and receiving. How can I tell if I'm like transmitting or receiving? Like
When you're
the
talking,
difference.
when you're thinking, when you're visualizing, that's transmission. And when you're paying attention, you're receiving, you're listening, you're looking. And in this regard, what we're talking about here, we're feeling or experiencing the body, inside and outside as a unit. That's what I mean is the difference between transmitting and receiving. We almost always in transmit mode. That's why we don't hear much of what other people are saying, is we're too busy thinking up what we're going to say in response to what they said. But here we're turning off that transmit completely and getting into the experience of receiving mode. Looking,
Yes.
for instance, is receiving. Painting mental pictures is transmitting. Does that make sense to you?
But couldn't you say that I'm receiving thoughts? Like if you're talking and I'm not fully paying attention to what you're saying, but like I'm thinking of a response, it's because like I'm trying to receive other thoughts. Like
Yes,
isn't that receiving
that's
too?
backwards. That you're not receiving those thoughts, you're making that shit up.
um,
You're not receiving. If you're receiving, what are you receiving? Where do they come from? The answer is they come from inside your mind. You're making that up. You're receiving, you're transmitting. It would be only a matter of speech to call it receiving.
yeah, but it's like I cannot know what thought comes next, so that's why I see it as like still receiving.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what thought comes next, but you're bringing them on one thought at a time. You're not receiving those thoughts, you're manufacturing them.
To stay open, perhaps.
Who said what?
I said
Oh, yeah.
to stay open, not
Mm-hmm.
shut
I feel
things.
like this remind me of when like when we talk to someone and their response make us think of our response, right? And like no, it's like when two different person sharing the different belief, they they don't listen to other. They only want to tell. They only transmit our own belief to them. We don't listen to other.
We're in the
It's kind of
habit of
fun.
in transmit mode. And while
Yeah.
we're transmitting, it's really difficult to receive.
Now, no, we don't even receive. We just like when other people say, we just don't listen.
Well, when you're around other people, that's different than what I'm talking about here is a practice that can be best done in seclusion. Is being away from all of that kind of external input and also getting away from all of the transmitting that we're doing so that we can see things at a very, very, very subtle level. It's hard to do when your mother is yelling at you. The only thing that you can do when mom is yelling is to get away from mom and get into seclusion so that then you can pay attention to things that are worth paying attention to. So, Rose, what do you have to say?
Sounds good. Thank you.
How about you, Tom?
Thanks for the teaching, Dhammarato. Nothing really to add, but plenty to practice later on today.
Yes, this is for practice. This is for going, let us say, whole hog or going all the way in. This is the full practice of the Buddha, to find that pleasure when nothing else is happening. No transmissions, no thoughts, no feelings, just awareness of the body. So, who have I left out? Rick, what do you have to say?
Oh, you already asked me.
Oh, okay. All right.
You didn't ask me. You didn't ask me.
Who?
Yeah, me.
You've
Cheap.
been talking the whole time.
Oh, well, can I see?
All right.
Can I say what?
Yeah, what are you
Yeah.
thinking? Go ahead.
Well, you know, I I think I am overthinking. Like, oh, Jana, it's like it's like something in Thai word is like mystic level of power or something in Thailand. So
Yes,
like
totally
and like
missing it.
and
That's
like
not the teaching of the Buddha. That's the teaching of magic.
yeah, and the word is give me a pressure because it's so big, so I cannot do it. It's really hard. But like
But those are just
no,
unwholesome thoughts, and your unwholesome thoughts
yeah,
are going to prevent you from doing that. So let's
yes,
have some wholesome thoughts with, wow, this is nice. Everything is okay.
yes. This also goes to a lot of Buddha Dhamma step that I practice. There is a craving that like it's like there's a craving that tell me this is big, So like fixing everything, this is big. I have to do this perfectly. But no, it doesn't work that way. So that's not how it is. So I stopped feeding to the craving, and eventually,
Yeah,
I think what you're telling in the jhana is it might be like the peace feeling. It's not. It's not.
the feeling of peace, yes. The
Yeah.
feeling of relaxation, of peace.
Yeah.
That there's nothing left but just the shimmering aliveness of the body. The
Yeah.
body's not doing anything. It's still, and yet you can still experience the body.
It's so simple. Like don't think too much. Don't think too much about it because I think too much, and it make me have it make me have peace harder.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm inviting you to do, is to first off have happy thoughts, and then let those happy thoughts subside because you're paying attention to how good you feel. But you're not going to feel good when you keep thinking about how to feel or what to do. That's what I mean by thoughts being transmitters. We're not receiving, we're transmitting. We're making stuff up. We're perceiving. We're wanting. We are caring about how can I get something, as opposed to in the first jhana, we begin to see that I've already got everything that I need. Without that understanding of satisfaction, we can't go deeper into the jhanas. This is why the first jhana is so important. It's so key. I would go so far as to say that the first jhana is 90% of the practice. And it doesn't even start. Practice doesn't even start so long as you're wanting something. When you're wanting something, that's a hindrance to practice. So we have to stop wanting anything and be satisfied with the way things are. This is how the first jhana will, in fact, sneak up on you because you just begin to feel better and better. And when you feel so good, you don't think about it at all. You're too busy enjoying how good you feel. Go ahead, Agnes.
Does that include not wanting to? Because I sometimes I can shut off, shut down because I don't want this. I don't want to receive or stay open. It's like,
Well, that's an active shutting down, though. You're
yeah,
doing something, you're shutting down.
yeah.
And in
But
fact, you'd be surprised at how much of the time most people are spending shutting down. You're not that unique in that regard. You have a
yeah,
whole lot of people shutting down. That's what I was
mm,
talking about the aura body, that we
mm,
want to have our space. And so we close down.
mm,
When we're afraid, we shut down, we
mm.
hide. Okay. And
It
so
is.
go ahead.
Sorry. No. You say.
So when we're afraid, which is what you're talking about here, we begin to shut down.
Mm.
Okay, we contract. What we're talking about here is a relaxation that opens things up.
Yeah, I know that's it. But my question is you said we want things, and I asked, does that include not wanting things too? because I
Well-
don't really want things. I don't want it shutting down, you know. With
Okay.
Vibhavatana or something I read about.
Well, wanting is wanting, whether it's coming or going. What you're saying is that you shut down because something is happening that you don't want. You don't want to feel that
Exactly.
sensitivity, and so
Yeah.
you want to shut down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That clarifies. Yeah. Okay. But I've learned a lot to not to do that.
Yes.
This is the change. So I can get that joy by just you know, seeing that what I'm doing, and then it kind of changes. So yeah, I was just interested in hearing about that not wanting and how to understand it. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, wanting to get or wanting to push away is still a kind of a wanting. That's an important point. And it's always associated with the second noble truth, in the sense that both of them are ignorant. They're not wise. So Ramit, go ahead.
So one question, Dhammarato. So what's the difference between fourth jhana and deep sleep? Because in deep sleep, you're also very relaxed and you're not wanting anything.
Whoever told you that people are deeply relaxed when they're asleep? Haven't you heard of people tossing and turning? Haven't you heard people having dreams? It's really hard to relax when you're asleep if you can't relax when you're awake.
Yeah, but there is a deep sleep part, right? I think there is a dream sleep, and there is also another sleep, I think, which is the first 4 hours, which goes in the deep sleep part where there are no dreams.
Right. And people don't get enough of that. Now, so the only difference between that and what we're talking about here is that when you're in that deep sleep, you don't know it. You don't even know when you're dreaming. You don't know what you're doing. But in this state, you know. That's why it's so relaxing. The Buddha talked about wakefulness in the sense that we can actually be in this state and get all the rest and relaxation that we need, that we call sleep, because we're doing it while we're still conscious. We know what we're doing, and you can actually relax your way into it. So one of the hallmarks that you'll find for people who are, let us say, deeply experienced meditators is that their sleep is actually quite light. If somebody comes into the room, you'll know it. As opposed to deep sleep is where you're obliterate. You don't know what's going on. That the house can burn down and you don't wake up. Okay? And so we're actually practicing what you would normally refer to as deep sleep, but we're doing it while we're still conscious, as opposed to being completely unconscious. And when we're asleep, we're completely unconscious, whether we're tossing and turning, whether we're sweating, whether we're dreaming. You don't know any of that stuff. It's only, in fact, when people will wake up in a cold sweat sitting straight up in bed because they woke themselves up out of a dream. But before they did that, they were completely asleep. So the state that I'm talking about here is a state of wakefulness and yet fully relaxed. Does that make sense for you, Amrit?
Yeah, definitely it does.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? How about you, Catherine? You got anything else to say?
No, just listening and drawing inspiration from everybody.
All right. So, Mikey, why don't you take this thing home?
Gladly. Thanks, friends, for being here today. Yeah, what a splendid reminder to just take it easy, relax, be okay, practice being at peace. Yeah. If you're listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, share this video with a friend. Perhaps if there is something you didn't quite understand, you can watch this video back again. And like Dhammarato had mentioned earlier in the call, this call goes really well with a call that was uploaded yesterday. It was a talk given by Pra Daniel. So yeah, these go really well together. You can also check out these talks on iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other podcasting platforms. And we welcome you to come join us here on Dhamma Friends. Come make some noble friends where, as you can see, we just hang out, take it easy, and chill. And please go check out the OpenSanghaFoundation.org, where you can find information about various Watts in your area and different resources like Buddhadasa books.
PDF files, a lot of library stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks again, friends, and take care. Don't worry. Be happy.
All right, one last thing, and that is that I'm going to leave the call, but I invite everybody here to stay on the call to get to know each other. I'd especially like Agnes and Catherine to get to know each other, as well as Rose has just left. But anyway, the ladies can get together to help each other with Dhamma. Okay? So, Karwan and Ivan and Giannis stay on for a while and chat with each other. Everything is beautiful, and we need to practice that together. One last thing then about that is that in a way, we have a duty to keep the Dhamma alive among each other and to help each other to practice so that eventually the noble Dhamma of the Buddha can become widespread. That there is Buddhist practices out there, but it was spread by ordinary people who didn't quite understand the Dhamma, and so it winds up being more of the magical Buddhism that you find everywhere. But there are good teachers out there, but a lot of them are dying off. Because Buddhadasa is dead, and now Thich Nhat Hanh is dead, and all kinds of folks are dying off. And so you're the next generation. Practice well, so that you can spread the Dhamma. Ivan, I'm talking to you. Brett, I'm talking to you. Karwan, I'm talking to everybody, in fact. So I'll see you later. Thank you, guys. And I'll leave you now.
Thank you, Dhamma.
And I hope you to stay
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, Dhammarato.